Arjun Erigaisi and Magnus Carlsen played a match against each other at the semi-finals of the Airthings Masters, which is part of the Champions Chess Tour 2023. Now, the match lasted for 5 games and it was very evenly matched. In fact, in the first 4 games, the score was 2-2, with both Arjun and Magnus trading blows with each other. And the tie was actually decided in the Armageddon, where Magnus Carlsen sort of held with the black pieces and won the match. So what I have done is I have selected 13 positions from these 5 games, and you have to guess the moves either of Magnus, either of Arjun, and try to put yourself in their shoes. Okay, so let's get it cracking. This is the first game that we are going to look at. Arjun is playing with the black pieces, Magnus is white, and it started off with an asymmetrical English, and it was a very normal position here. F6, castles, knight takes c3, d takes c3, queen c7, rook d1, castles, bishop d3, attacking the pawn on h7, and now f5, e4, f4. And here's your first question: what did white play in this position? White to move. So if you think about it, white wants to push c4 to open up the bishop, but then his own bishop would get a little bit passive, and that's the reason why the right move here is bishop to b5. Very strong move, very nice move. And now it's your question, it's a question to you once again: what should black play here? I did not like Arjun's decision in this position. He played the move bishop f6 and it allowed white to get everything he wanted. Magnus took and played c4, and this is exactly what he wanted. Now his bishop opens up, knight is attacking here, and this is very good. So the move that would have been better here is either to get your knight to d8. I like this move because now if you play c4, your bishop on b5 is doing nothing much. I can go knight f7 and then sort of play against that bishop. So that was one idea. The other one was to play the move c4 and just sacrificing a pawn to close down this bishop on b2, and that would also have been positionally pretty good, because let's say if bishop takes c4, I take and play knight a5, or you can play b takes c4 and knight a5, and also very good for black. Okay, Arjun played bishop f6, Magnus took c4, queen c7, and now for your next point, third point here, what should white do here? A really nice move by Magnus, typical Magnus move. So Magnus realized that this is a weakness and he needs to align his pieces on it, and so he makes the move bishop c3. Very nice move. He wants to go to queen b2 and put even further pressure on e5. With that, he started turning the screws. Although Arjun was doing pretty okay, but Magnus made all the logical moves, entered on the d file, there's pressure on e5, and he slowly converted this into a win with some very nice play. And I think the real mistake, the final mistake, happened with g6, when this bishop becomes bad, the king becomes weak. And yeah, here queen b3, they traded the queens. And if you take with the rook, there's rook d5 attacking the pawns. If you take with the bishop, which happened in the game, rook d6 and bishop e5. And Magnus went on to win this game. So that was 1-0 on the scorecard for Magnus Carlsen. Arjun was trailing, and we all know how difficult it is when you are trailing against Magnus Carlsen. But Arjun is, getting better. He's getting stronger as a player. And so he was like, okay, I have to play well. We go to the next game. In this one, Arjun has now the white pieces and Magnus is playing with the black pieces. And let's go through the game. Arjun opens it with d4, d5, and we have the Queen's Gambit accepted, e3, d5, a4, bishop b7. And this is not very popular line, But here, white to move, what would you do? It's a very important move that you have to play here as white. What would you do here? Yes, the move here is b3. And if you found it, you're already fighting for an opening advantage. The main point is that if you play cb, I have ab bishop b5, followed by queen b3 hanging. And by the way, I can take on a8 first and then take on b5. The other move here is that if nothing, then I'm just taking on c4. So b3 is very strong. In the game, Arjun managed to get a very nice risk-free edge with this position. The c5 pawn is slightly weak. Also, the a6 pawn is weak. Rook b1, rook b8. He played queen e2. And now he took on a6. So he's a pawn up. And Magnus tried to trade the queens. Arjun did not trade it. c5, queen a2. It's an extra pawn. Knight d4. And now Magnus played knight e4. White to play. What do you do in this position? It was very surprising that actually Arjun missed this move. He's otherwise tactically very, very alert. But here, I think that was a moment where he thought, oh, I'm playing Magnus. He might not miss this move. And he played the move rook c1. But in fact, he had this very powerful move, knight e6. And with this, even if you take on d2, it doesn't matter because after fe6, I'm taking here, attacking e7 and d7. And white is winning. So this was a big moment in the game that was missed by Arjun. He went rook c1 and then after takes, knight dc5, f3. Knight went back. Now knight d6 was better because after a5, bishop d8, somehow the black pieces are able to win the pawn. Now it's not possible to defend it. But after knight f6, Arjun once again had some edge here. Queen a6, queen e2, queen a5, queen c4. And now an important move here for black. What do you play? Black to play. So once again, we come to a critical moment in the position. If white is given time here, he would play knight c6. That is the winning move here. But Magnus found a very accurate move, h6. Knight d5. If you play h6, knight c6 is already winning. But he went knight d5. Now, the point is, if you take here, knight takes d5, which is possible, he would just take back. There is no mate here because there is queen f1. So, it's not a checkmate. But after ed5, it's already quite a dangerous position. And maybe white has to go something like knight c6, dc, knight a5. And after knight a4, the game should most likely end in a draw here, although white can push a bit. So here Arjun played the move bishop d2. And once again, a very critical moment in the game for black. Only move for black. What would you play here? Magnus Carlsen was like having 3-4 minutes here. He used almost all his time to find this move. Yes, the move here is the very, very strong one, queen a8. And that stops knight c6. It also stops any discovered attack on the queen. And it's just very defends d5. It's an extremely strong move, threatening knight c3 and queen a4. So the problem is if you took directly knight c3, then white has knight c6. And that is the big issue. And that's the reason why doing it this way is the correct move order. And after a5, queen a5. And then the players played a few more moves, but already Magnus was out of the woods. They exchanged pieces and they agreed to a draw very shortly here. So that was the second game. Magnus was still leading 1.5. And now we go to the third game. And in this, Magnus was having the white pieces. So it seemed like, he would build up on his lead. But Arjun came very motivated. And let's go through this game. Arjun has the white pieces. He opens with, Magnus has the white pieces. He opens with c4. Arjun plays e6, knight c3, d5, d4, c6, cd, ed, bishop f4, knight f6, e3. We've seen this opening before, actually Magnus versus Sarana. in which f3 was played, but Magnus chose knight e2. Actually, it was Sarana versus Magnus, where Sarana plays f3, knight h5, knight g3, takes, knight goes back, g3, knight d7, bishop d3. I think the main idea of playing g3 was not to develop the bishop here, but just to make a square for the knight on h4 to f3 if it was attacked. So bishop d3, g6, knight h4, bishop g7, knight f3, castles, and now b5 was played. This is very Arjun like way to play. I thought c5 was also possible and good, because after take you can go knight f6 and the position is around equal. But he went b5, rook c1, rook c8, h4, a5, king g2, queen e7, and I think this is where Magnus started to show his great chess, knight e2. Firstly, now c5 is difficult because b5 hangs, so Arjun played b4, trying to play c5, but now knight came to f4, had to take ef, c5, and here I was expecting Magnus to play rook e1 followed by h5, but he went for the move f5 in this position. And Arjun should have gone c4. I was like waiting for it, that he will use his queenside majority, but instead he took on d4. And this meant that Magnus had a huge advantage after take and h5. Although he spawned down, you can see that these pawns are not very healthy, and also the king is getting attacked. So after queen f6, takes, queen e2, knight c5, rook c1, bishop f8, good move. I really like this move, defending the knight, bishop b1. And now what did Arjun play here? I really like this next sequence of moves. Magnus is better, but Arjun finds some very strong defensive moves. So first thing is that you want to move this knight away, but it cannot be moved because the rook would hang. So that's the reason why first move he went rook c7. He can now go to e7, g7 or h7, and in general this little move is very powerful. Knight h4, he went g5, queen g4. Well, the problem with knight to f5 is that there comes d3. Then this knight is hanging, and if you take here, I can take, and if you take on c7, I can take on f5. So queen g4, d3, strong move. Knight f3, rook g7, and now he should have played rook d1 with a good position for white, but he went b3. He wanted to protect his b2 pawn, and Arjun found a very good move, queen g6, rook e1, and now your move. What should black play? So black here found a very strong move, and it is a very nice one, challenging the rook down the e file. Rook e7, very powerful move. And well, he moved his rook away. Maybe rook h1 was better. He went rook d1, and now once again your move, actually black to move and get a winning position. It was at this point that Arjun had very little time, and I thought it's not so easy to find this move, but the boy did find it. He went queen e4, excellent decision, giving up the g5 pawn, but after rook g7, he is in the driver's seat, queen h5. One more time, find the most accurate move for black to beat Magnus Carlsen. Yes, the move is knight e6, and the point is you're going to f4, the queen would hang, this is hanging. So he went king g1, and now Arjun should have gone knight f4, and he's just simply winning. But he went rook h7, allowing some counterplay here. Rook h6 was still winning. After bishop d3, you have queen f3, because rook h6 defends the e6 knight. But he took queen f3 here, and this allowed white to get back into the game. This is around equal. He should have taken on d3. It does look scary, but somehow the white king is fine with d5 hanging, queen h7 coming in. I mean, white has enough counterplay. But he went rook d2, and now for the final winning move here for black, what would you play? Yes, once again you have to find this move, queen e4. And it's such a nice move because you are threatening check to win the rook, so you can't take like bishop d3 because of queen e1 check. And Otherwise, I think he should not have still taken on e4, because that he did in the game and he then was completely lost. White is busted here with bishop c3 coming. But he could have played queen g5 defending the rook. It leads to very complex positions. I think rook f5 is the best move here. Check, bishop f8, bishop d3 check, and winning. So it's not so easy to defend here after rook f5. But yeah, that was maybe the best try in that time pressure. Because queen e4, d e4, king g2, bishop c3 is already completely winning for black. Takes here, check, d2, and Arjun had equalized the score with 2-2, which was very sorry, 1.5, which was amazing. And with this, we went into the fourth game, Arjun having the white pieces. And well, the thing is, in the fourth game there was not much action that happened, so I don't have any questions from this game. I can just quickly run through the game. It was a Nimzo Indian. Magnus played very accurately with black pieces and gave Arjun no chance. g6, transferred the bishop there, bishop e3, bishop g7. And I really like this move by Magnus here, knight e7, with the idea of coming to f5. And after knight e6, queen e6, bishop a4 here, queen c7. They repeated and exchanged takes, and after the opposite colored bishops was a drawn endgame. So with this, things moved into the Armageddon, which was the final game, and it has a very interesting format that both players have to bid. They both get 15 minutes, and the one who bids lesser time gets the black pieces and draw odds. Arjun, I think, bid somewhat like 11 minutes or so. Magnus bid 10 minutes, and so Magnus got the black pieces and draw odds. Arjun tried to win with white. He's in a must win, and against Magnus it always puts a lot of pressure. a4, d6, h3, a5, rook e1, bishop e6, he took, c3. The opening went pretty okay for Arjun. He got a position which was playable, fighting position, but I think at some point he started to go wrong, and I think d5 was a very good move by Magnus. And when he took here, I think already things were going wrong, because now his a4 pawn is weak. He had a concrete idea of c4 in mind, but in came c6, pushing the knight away, and then take on c4. Now bishop c1 was extremely important, but he took on h6, and that was a mistake, because after queen h6, rook queen d7, here is a great move for black. What do you play? Well, there are many moves that win here and many good moves, but one is very spectacular. So Magnus chose bishop c5, which is a great move, but the best move here is rook f3. And what is very nice is that you give up your rook and play king h7. He cannot take, by the way, gf3, because after queen h3, king g1, a very important move now is bishop g5, with the idea of knight d2, taking here, bishop f4 coming in, all of those problems. By the way, you might want to go knight d2 to attack here, but after rook e3, it's not so good, so you play bishop g5 to stop that. Bishop g5, queen d7, knight d2, good move, and then knight f3, black wins. So rook f3, by the way, if king h7, gf3 is bad, but if you go knight d1, I have knight d2 again, rook b2, rook h3, gh3 takes, and mate. So these were some of the lines which were in black's favor. In the game, he went bishop c5, queen d3, rook here. He had to take on c4. I believe Magnus would have taken on f3 and would be better, but after knight d1, Arjun is still fighting. But he went queen e2, which was a blunder, as after knight d2. Fantastic move by Magnus. Knight e5, knight b1, and now rook d2 was game over. He played rook f2, which allowed this small little tactic. It's still better for black, and for Magnus, a draw was enough to qualify, so he didn't press too hard. And in the end, Arjun played accurately to hold the draw here. I think a very key moment was actually this moment, where Arjun had to find the only move to hold, and he did find with rook a6, because if he had moved his knight somewhere, let's say knight g3, it would not have worked. King was coming in, and with rook a6 he actually got this takes and managed to hold this rook endgame to a draw. So with this, Magnus won, but Arjun fought really well, and I think we can be very proud of this youngster, the way he fought against the world champion. And well, we hope that he keeps getting stronger, and kudos to Magnus for reaching the finals, meeting Hikaru Nakamura. But Arjun is not out of the tournament. He will face Mukesh, and it'll be a fun match to follow. For now, this is Sagar Shah signing off. Let me know how many points you got in the comment section. Also, this entire video you can solve interactively on chessranga.com, and the link is in the description and in the pinned comment, so you can check it out and solve it in an interactive way. Bye bye.